Hello and welcome to Overdrive. This is Rohit Paradkar and today we are driving the 2022 Maruti Suzuki Baleno. There's enough new tech, enough new features in this car to justify a full-blown review. So let's get on with it. But before we do that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so right now. And please let me know what you think about the design of the 2022 Baleno in the comment section below.
The new Baleno is built on the same hard tech platform as the outgoing car, but every body panel is new and contributes to giving this car a sharper and chiseled design. Gone are the curved haunches of the older Baleno, and in comes a chunkier design that has thicker buttresses highlighted by the more prominent character line. Up front, the face is made to look wider than before with a new grille that Maruti Suzuki likes to call the next wave design.
Those three spots of LEDs that they've given inside the headlight as the daytime running lights, I think it looks quite good. Especially when you look at the car from afar, it really looks nice and premium. So I think that's a very good touch. But knowing Maruti, they don't like to have a unified design philosophy across all their models like some of the other car makers do. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a Nexa signature or if this is going to be a Maruti signature that we'll see on other cars as well. But I think here it looks quite handsome. Now, in terms of the proportions of the face, I'm sure a lot of people out there are going to be a little polarized. It looks quite wide. Most hatchbacks have a sloping roof, a sloping nose as well. So that sort of creates that wedge shape. But here they have gone with this low slung styling. You have these two very prominent creases on the bonnet as well. And that gives it a very wide stance when you look at the car again from afar. I'm not sure how people are going to react to it. Some people have already told me that it looks a bit disproportionate. It feels as if it was a sedan like the Ciaz and it was just chopped off to make a hatchback out of it. It gives those kind of proportions. So people are polarized on that. I think it looks quite handsome. The face is quite nice.
With the new face, the Baleno looks sporty and wide, and the lighter color options or even the red look far better than the blue seen here. The paint quality also feels a tad bit better than before, contributing to the premium feel.
What I do not like, however, are these fog lamp housings. If you look at the previous Baleno, they had done it very elegantly. Here, I think it looks like a bit of an afterthought. It looks a bit too chunky, especially when the rest of the car is trying to follow a very sleek design theme. So this, to me, is like a sore thumb, especially if you accessorize the car, where there are appliques that you can put around the fog lamp housings. It just ends up looking a bit not so good.
The tail looks smart, though the tail lights have a bit of a WRV vibe in their design. Like the front end, the redesign to the tail also adds a sense of width to the car.
They've done LED lighting all across the car, including the fog lamps. But for the turn blinkers, they've decided to go with the old school filament bulbs. And unlike many other cars which have such prominent daytime running lights, the moment you turn on the blinker, the daytime running lights are supposed to go a little dim so that the indicator or the turn blinker is clearly visible to other motorists. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen here. So I just hope that it is visible to most road users around you.
The new wheel design adds a sporty touch, and they look even better when rolling. The overall length and the height have reduced marginally and give the car a more low-slung stance than before. But the change in dimensions is more to do with the external bodywork, and the overall cabin space, boot volume and ground clearance remain more or less the same as the outgoing car.
Now, one little detail that is very easy to miss is this part. The bodywork has been thickened, but it's not only this, it's also the doors that are now thicker. And that gives you a nice reassuring thud at the rear as well as at the front.
This is because the new Baleno uses thicker sheet metal. And once inside, you may notice that the seat cushioning and bolstering is thicker too, making the seats more comfortable than before. But shorter drivers could find the under-thigh support a bit intrusive. The new flat-bottom steering wheel feels good to hold, has an auto center feature, and comes with controls for the new cruise control system, which finally makes its way onto the Baleno.
So dashboard also has a new layout on the Baleno. You may or may not notice that there is a navy blue color inlay on the lower part of the dashboard. It's almost black, so it's very difficult to notice, but once you know, you know. You also have these satin inserts and then the black inserts on top. All of these plastics are the regular scratchy plastics. They aren't the soft plastics. but then no other cars in this segment anyway offer it. What you do get now is a much larger infotainment screen, and it does stick out quite a bit. However, it doesn't really intrude in your field of vision all that much. They've nicely made sure that the upper edge is in line with the dashboard in your field of view, so that is not a problem at all. This infotainment, it's completely customizable for its layout. It also gives you some of the vitals like the fuel economy, the range, etc. You have all that info even on the MID, and you also can get all that info on the new head-up display. So the heads-up display is something like what we've seen on the mini cars, where it nicely, smoothly retracts out and it reflects all the data that you want. You can adjust the brightness for it. You can also close it if you don't want it. There is a switch gear on this side, quite a big switch gear at that, many switches out here. You can long press the HUD button to close it, but it remembers the last state. So if you were to close it and then switch off the car, when you switch on the car again, it will remain in the closed state or in the shut state. So that is something that you need to keep in mind before you start panicking, thinking that it's not working. Another good thing is if you have a pair of polarized glasses, you will still be able to read it. Many of these systems, they are difficult to read when you have polarized glasses, but here it is not that big a concern. Now there is also a new digital assistant. You can say "Hi Suzuki" to pull it up. It takes a bit of time, a little moment before it responds to you, so you'll have to be a little patient with it, and it will also play music for you. See, it responded right now. Play music.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Please say that again.
So this is a bit of a problem with this particular assistant. If I have to play music, it right now said that it didn't get that, but let me try this again. Play music.
Sorry, I still can't understand you. Please make sure there is no background noise and try again.
So what it's not doing is reducing the fan speed so that it can hear me better. A lot of cars that have assistants like these, the moment you start talking to them, they drop the blower volume or they drop the blower speed so that the cabin becomes a little more silent and they can hear you clearly. This doesn't do it. Let's try this again. Hi Suzuki.
Hi, what can I do for you?
Play music.
USB is not connected. Please connect USB and try again. Goodbye for now.
So that's a bit of an issue with this. So it only takes the USB input for the audio. My phone is connected via Bluetooth. That was also the last source that was played for the music, but it does not pick that up. So you can ask it to play radio, you can ask it to play music via the USB, but even if you command it to play music via Bluetooth, it simply doesn't know that command. So this system for now only accepts a few commands, and it can take it offline as well. You don't have to be connected, or you don't need the internet connection for it to work. But yes, like I said, it's still at its nascent stage, but it's a good direction that we have from Maruti. This will only get better with time.
The infotainment comes with its suite of apps, including Spotify, and is mated to an Archeme surround sound system. It sounds good for the price, but we found that it lacks the punch and doesn't quite create the soundstage in the center of the car despite the surround sense moniker. The Baleno now also comes with a 360-degree parking camera, which starts off by giving you a full walk around of the car. And using parking sensors, it can also warn if someone suddenly walks into your path while you're reversing. Maruti Suzuki's proprietary Smart Connect app now communicates with an inbuilt telematics hardware on the new Baleno, unlike the plug-and-play module of the previous model, allowing for tighter integration of the connected services like geofencing, vehicle tracking, remote access, vehicle health monitoring, etc. Since Maruti intends to bring wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to this infotainment, they have decided to use a 12-volt socket and a USB-A port at the front, while the fast-charging USB-A and C ports are only at the rear. Ideally, I think it should have been the other way around for a car that isn't going to be chauffeur-driven that often. Let me know what you think.
Ingress and egress as before is not difficult at all. Now the seats, of course, like I said, the contouring is slightly different, the cushioning is slightly different, and comfort-wise, it's actually quite good. I was just hoping that they would give a center armrest here, but unfortunately they haven't done that. However, you do get 2 adjustable head restraints, not 3, so this space is only good enough and safe enough for 2 adults and a kid. You also get 2 USB ports. There is a USB-C and a USB-A port in here. You also get your own set of AC vents, the plastics for which they feel a bit low end, don't match the rest of the plastics inside the car. But overall, nice place to be in. Visibility outside of the window is quite good. Overall, the headroom, the knee space, everything is quite nice. This seat is set to my driving preference and I have plenty of knee room. So this was always a concern with Maruti's hatchbacks, wasn't so much with the Baleno, and that continues because nothing has changed in terms of the space because this is still based on the previous platform of the Baleno.
Despite the dark colors used in the cabin, the cooling efficiency of the AC is excellent. To go with the premium positioning, the Baleno gets climate control and power windows as a standard fit. The cabin also comes with the option of 6 airbags now, and certain variants also get ESP and hill hold functions.
Now the Baleno is about 50 to 80 kilos heavier than the outgoing counterpart. 50% of this weight gain comes from the additional equipment, the bigger infotainment, the heads-up display, etc., etc. But the remaining 50% essentially comes from the thicker sheet metal that is used in the bodywork, 8% thicker sheet metal now, and even the use of high-strength steels have been increased. There are a higher number of high-strength steels now within the chassis to make it or give it better reinforcement, because that has been an area of concern for a lot of you out there. Honestly, lightweight cars don't necessarily mean that they are unsafe, but yes, to put to rest a few of those concerns, Maruti has actually made the chassis even stronger than before.
Hopefully, a better NCAP rating is on the cards then. Another contributor to the increased weight is an all-new suspension comprising of a new torsion beam setup. The new Baleno's aim was to soften the ride but also make it tighter through the corners with reduced body roll, and the new suspension achieves this balance quite well. The ride quality is noticeably better than the already supple ride of the outgoing car. Maruti says that the new suspension is also less noisy than before, but we'll confirm that with a long-term test.
The slight bit of revisions to the chassis and the bodywork have also resulted in better NVH levels. Of course, you will hear the road noises and the wind noises above 80 kilometers an hour, but below that, city speeds, it's a nice and silent cabin.
That said, with an empty boot, there is a fair bit of booming sound at the rear when cruising between 80 to 100 kilometers an hour.
The other bit of mechanical upgrade for the 2022 Baleno is 1-inch larger disc brakes up front. They used to run 13-inch discs before, now these are 14-inch discs, and the braking figures immediately see a bit of an improvement as well. The braking feel was never a complaint on the Baleno. The brake pedal feel was always nice and progressive. The brakes also felt quite confident, so that was never a matter of complaint, but they have still gone a notch higher on the brakes to improve the braking, to reduce the braking distance a little bit more.
The more confident brakes, the improved handling, and the revised tuning of the steering make the new Baleno quite exciting to drive, even for those with a more enthusiastic bent of mind.
There's no denying that with all the dark colors that have been used in the cabin, there is a very corseting feeling to the cabin of the Baleno. It doesn't feel as airy, and that may be to someone's taste, may not be to someone's taste. I quite like it. I think it feels quite sporty, almost feels like the dashboard and the cabin is wrapping around you. And in fact, the car has gotten a bit sportier now. So it continues to use the 1.2 litre K-series engine. It's the naturally aspirated engine. Now with the advent of so many small turbocharged engines in and around this segment, it doesn't feel as rev happy anymore as it did maybe a few years ago. But if you were to compare it to other naturally aspirated engines of the same size, it is quite a sprightly engine. So this is the dual jet, the dual variable wall timing. That's the engine that now comes to the Baleno with the automatic as well as the manual. We've sampled this engine in the past. It's there in the updated Swift as well. And it's a very nice engine. It also comes with the start-stop tech, and that helps aid the fuel economy, reduce emissions, etc., etc. In fact, Suzuki is saying that there is almost between 8 to 15% improvement in fuel economy compared to the outgoing unit. Similarly, for the automatic, they have now ditched the CVT, that beautiful refined CVT. They've ditched that for the AGS. Now, in the past, Maruti Suzuki has often told us that, they had kept the CVTs for the more premium cars, this being one of the Nexa flagships. It was always there for the Baleno. And the lower end vehicles, the vehicles that are sold in the Maruti Suzuki arena, those would be the ones that would be using AGS exclusively or the AMT exclusively. So when we did ask them, now Maruti Suzuki says that their AGS or AMT, the automated manual transmission, has improved so much over the years. They have managed to refine it so much over the years that they can now find it fit for the premium vehicles as well. And honestly, I sort of agree with them because the new AMTs are much better. The transmission lash or the transmission shock, that head nod effect that we complained about AMTs or AGS units way in the past when it debuted on the Celerio, all of that is now gone. The new AGS or the new AMTs are really smooth from Maruti Suzuki.
For the manual variant, the Baleno now employs a hydraulic clutch, which reduces the effort required for the clutch pedal, making it far less cumbersome than the outgoing car. It also has a more predictable bite point, making it friendlier for new drivers, while lesser clutch pedal travel makes it ideal for shorter drivers as well.
Between the manual and the automatic, a 0 to 100 sprint shows about a 1 second difference, the AGS being the slower one. But the AGS is also ready to go down 2 gears if required when you need that instant power. So pulling overtakes is not that difficult, doesn't need a lot of planning, especially at city speeds. Of course, this is a naturally aspirated engine. There is not much below the 2500 RPM mark. In fact, the power band or the meat of the torque is only available between 3 to 6000. It redlines at a little over 6000 RPM. But 3 to 6000 is where you have the meat of the power. It doesn't really taper off after 5000 or 5500. It is tuned to give you a nice clean torque range or a power band from 3 to 6000. So if you're on the highway, you're usually in that zone, so pulling overtakes is not a problem at all. And in the city, you're usually under 2000 RPM, so you might have to rev the engine a little bit. But if you're with the AGS or the AMT, like I said, it can just drop 2 gears to give you that instantaneous overtake. One of the other reasons why they use the AGS instead of the CVT is fuel economy gains. With the AGS, with the kind of tuning that they've achieved with this particular engine, they're able to get about 15% improvement between the CVT and the AGS being the more fuel efficient car. So despite the additional weight of the car, it is still one of the most fuel efficient cars in its segment. And that is because of the new age tuning.
The engine is not fully compliant with the proposed flex fuel yet, but Maruti says that it will be made material compliant in a few years and will then be tuned to take advantage of the flex fuel too. On the current engine, the start-stop system makes for better fuel economy and lowers the emissions as well. So the kitna deti hai audience should remain happy. On the other hand, those complaining about the lack of new age features on a Maruti Suzuki car vis-a-vis the competition should now be happy with a host of new features that the Baleno now brings to the table, and hopefully all of this will filter down to other Maruti Suzukis as well. The new Baleno also promises better safety than before, while the improvements to the chassis should also keep the driving enthusiasts happy. Those preferring Toyota's service to Maruti Suzuki will soon be able to buy the Baleno in the new Glanza guise by April 2022. But irrespective of the badge, the new Baleno is now a more compelling buy than before.